News, Janet Mason, Steve Pacenti, Sports, and Bill Peterson, Weather. Now for News Center 11, Dennis Bounds.
Good evening. The first presidential debate of 1980 is history. Tonight in Baltimore, Republican Ronald Reagan and Independent John Anderson took the podiums to state their positions and draw the differences between their campaigns. Conspicuous by his absence, President Carter, who wanted to debate Ronald Reagan alone. Many of the questions concerned inflation and the state of the economy. Reagan and Anderson took shots at President Carter for not taking part in the debate. As to any more presidential debates, well, they are in doubt since President Carter declined tonight's invitation from the League of Women Voters. In the meantime, the Democrats appear to be getting their Unity Act together. Senator Edward Kennedy is to begin campaigning for President Carter. Tomorrow night in Los Angeles, he'll appear with the president at a fundraiser. And there are future plans for more joint appearances. Also, Senator Kennedy intends to campaign on behalf of the president in the big states of Michigan, Pennsylvania, Illinois, and Texas. Janet.
Moving to news closer to home, readers have been without the Minneapolis Star and Tribune 8 days now. Negotiations in that strike against the two newspapers are scheduled to resume tomorrow morning. There was some tension on the picket line this morning. Instead of the usual 10,000, management printed 25,000 scaled-down newspapers for those who would cross the picket line to buy a paper inside the building. Outside, the strikers increased their number of pickets to discourage people from buying the papers. At one point, police were called in because of the tension between the strikers and the newspaper buying public. However, no violence broke out. Under normal conditions, real estate ads make up an entire section of the Sunday Minneapolis Tribune. Today's scaled-down version carried an abbreviated classified section. Joe Casilla checked with some realtors today to learn what the strike is doing to their business. Here's what he's found.
Before the newspaper strike, the Minneapolis Tribune's classified section was loaded with real estate ads. A lot of prospective home buyers check Sunday classified ads to aid in their search for a home. The ads are helpful in finding open houses, and for realtors provide the second best method of attracting customers next to the multiple listing service.
It's made a remarkable comeback. We'll have highlights from that game right after this. Last week's Viking team and today's team didn't look like the same team at all.
I think what it was that last week's opponent was a lot better than this week's opponent. The Eagles are definitely better than the Bears, but the Vikings played much better today than they did last week against the Eagles losing. Today it was 34-14 in favor of the Vikings in a game that had everyone waiting for the Bears' Walter Payton and the Bears' defensive rush to get on track, but instead it was the Vikings' Ted Brown and their rush that did all the damage. 20-point victory for the Vikes. No doubt their best effort of the season, and it started quickly in the first quarter. Out of the shotgun formation, it's Tommy Kramer finding his way over two Bear defenders. Ahmad Rashad going deep on the left sideline. Pass Gary Fenzik. Rashad with a nice catch at his ankles. He goes all the way 76 yards. Touchdown. Vikes, they lead 7-0. The Bears get the ball, but not for long. Mike Phipps, perfect pass, except it was the Tommy Hannon of the Vikes, 41 yards. No one there. Touchdown. It's the first returned interception for a touchdown by a Viking since 1973. Scores 14-0. Rest of the Vikings defensive front four get into the act there. Walter Payton dumped for 6. He was held for 39 yards today by the Vikings. Here's one of 5 sacks. Mark Mullaney bringing down Vince Evans of the Bears. Ted Brown had a great day on offense. This 55-yard run for a touchdown, his first big run of the day. He had 117 yards and 2 touchdowns. This made it 21-0 Vikes at halftime. Ted Brown second. It's a plunge, 28-0 Vikes before the Bears get 14 quick ones. So Robert Miller comes out of a gang. 27 yards later, it's a touchdown to ice the victory. Vikings 34 with a missed PAT. The Bears 14. That's how it ended. The Vikings a winner. The game ball, you have to give it to the entire Viking defense from top to bottom. A total effort stopping Walter Payton. Payton had been averaging 118 yards per game against the Vikes up till today. Roger Buxton talked with defensive coach Bob Holloway and safety Tom Hannon after the game.
It looked to me as though you had said to yourself, okay, if Chicago's going to beat us, it's not going to be because of Walter Payton.
We made up games I just showed you. There are the scores. Elsewhere, Dallas came back to beat Tampa Bay. Oakland over Washington by 3. Steve Grogan threw 3 touchdown passes. New England got by Seattle in Seattle. And I'll be back with a look at the AFC highlights, a rundown of today's baseball action, including the Twins doubleheader sweep in Sports Sunday. That is a little later on. Janet?
Okay, thank you, Steve. In national news, the Air Force and Defense Department of...
Time to talk about weather and time to realize that beginning tomorrow, sometime, we are out of summer officially.
Summer ends. This is your, I hope you enjoyed it, Dennis. This was
I
the
did.
last full day of summer. Fall begins tomorrow at 4:09 p.m. We'll tell you more about it and what's happening in the weather right after this. Winds didn't do a lot of severe damage, around 50 to 60 mile an hour winds, which this summer's really been the case.
Summer's
quite
gone
often.
now.
Summer's
Almost.
gone. Autumn is here. The autumnal equinox. I went to school for 4 years to learn how to say that. Begins tomorrow at 4:09. That means fall is on the way. Temperatures tomorrow night will show it. We'll tell you more in the forecast in a second. Let's look now at our almanac, and you will see today's high was 62 degrees, the low 51. Records 94 set in 1937 and 32 set in 1974. Currently, the temperature is 58 degrees. Under, again, cloudy skies. We did see the sun briefly today. It was nice, wasn't it? The temperature again 58, dew point 53. That gives us humidity of about 83%. Winds will be out of the east at 8 miles an hour, and if those winds die down a little bit, we may see some patchy ground fog, but I think we'll see them actually pick up by morning. The pressure is falling, and for the month, we are almost 1 3/4 of an inch above what we should expect for this time of the month for precipitation. On the national map, what we have happening is another cold front moving into the area. Low pressure system that caused all the rain, the heavy rain last night, has now moved up into Canada. A trailing cold front cooled us off a little bit, kept clouds in most of the day. We did see, however, some clearing about 4 o'clock, but here comes another front out of the Dakotas, moving in, some rain showers and thunderstorms ahead of it, and of course clouds. That means looks like clouds into tomorrow. Also, like photo, you can see the cold front moving into Minnesota, a lot different than it was tonight at 5 o'clock. We have some rain showers in this area into the Dakotas, and they extend well back into Montana, but mainly cloudy skies, not a lot of precipitation with this. Let's take a close-up look at Minnesota. You can see overcast skies throughout the entire state. As far as storm surge radar goes, let's take a look at that now, and you will see some showers just south of the cities, down in south of Scott County, and look at a line that will move in before midnight. Some heavier rain with that also, and it looks like it'll move into about Wright County here very shortly. We'll give you a close-up view. In fact, they may in fact be seeing some very light showers in Wright County, and they will continue on in the morning. As far as high temperatures go, they were a bit on the chilly side, but nothing like we'll experience the next few days. Temperatures mainly in the 60s, 54 in Duluth, 73 down at Redwood Falls. Temperatures in the 60s also in the Dakotas. The one warm spot in Des Moines, Iowa, 81 degrees. Our forecast for tonight: showers and thunderstorms. Winds out of the northwest, 10 to 20 miles an hour. That should relieve all chances of seeing some fog by morning. Low is 47 to about 52 degrees. And then for tomorrow, cloudy and cooler with scattered showers again, mainly in the morning. Northwest winds, 20 to 35 miles an hour. Highs only into the low 60s, lows 37 degrees, and probably some below freezing temperatures in northern Minnesota. The extended outlook, however, partly cloudy skies for about 3 days. How's that?
Honest to goodness fall weather.
Sounds like fall weather to me.
Weather.
Weather to me.
Weather or not?
And Steve, well, you'll take a look at what, the undefeated football teams and
Baseball races.
baseball. Okay, right after this. So don't go away.
Cup Freedom won today, now leads 2-1 over Australia in the American Cup races. Jenna?
Okay, and you have one more story.
We certainly do. From far and wide, folks came back home today to help their Mullen Lutheran Church celebrate its 100th birthday. Chick McEwen has the story.
They crowded as close to one another as possible. All smiled at the same time on the signal from the photographer. The congregation of the small country church, the Mullen Lutheran Church, southeast of Faribault, today posed for the group picture for their church's 100th anniversary. Until the 1920s, the services were entirely in Norwegian. For the first half-century, the men sat on one side, women and children on the other, a custom of the old country. The first minister's salary was met by assessing each landowner $6 a year. and each parent $1 for each boy confirmed in the church, 50 cents for each girl. The children today released helium balloons that will deliver the 100-year story of their church as far as the winds will cooperate. After Sunday dinner in the church basement, most folks just stayed around the rest of the afternoon and visited. Happy 100th anniversary, Moreland Lutheran Church. For News Center 11, I'm Chick McEwen.
And that's our news for this Sunday. Decision 80, an analysis of tonight's debate, will begin in 90 minutes right here on Channel 11.
And Stan Borman and John Bachman will both be here tomorrow at 5:30 with the latest. Until then, good night and have a good week ahead. The High Bridge in St. Paul this morning, very early this morning, you would have seen something unusual. About 55 reservists from all branches of the military getting some combat and river training on the Mississippi. Now, it's the first time this kind of training has occurred on the Mississippi around St. Paul, and our photographer Ken Fornell caught the action.
We hope to have that story later in the newscast. Still to come on the news tonight, stories about presidential politics and what people think about it. And a church celebrates a milestone in history. Those stories and the rest of the news when we return. Denny, a small country church here in Minnesota was honored by its congregation today for the role it played in its community for 100 years. Chick McEwen has that story.
For all of its 100 years, the Moreland Lutheran Church has been the center of activity in the Norwegian farm community it serves, down where Steele, Dodge, Goodhue, and Rice counties all come together. This Sunday, the country church's century anniversary brought back home folks from as far away as Wisconsin and Iowa. They tripled the normal congregation of 300. Services were held in private homes in the 1870s before the church was built. The first pastor's salary was $6 from each landowner, $1 for each boy confirmed, and 50 cents for each confirmed girl. Services were in Norwegian until the early 1920s, when the congregation voted to have every other service in English. Since 1940, all services have been in English. Until the mid-1920s, men sat on one side of the church, women and children on the other, just as Norwegians had done in the churches back in the homeland. Today was an opportunity for everyone to look at the old pictures that record who was baptized, who was confirmed, and who was married, and in what years down through the decades.
I've been a lifelong member here. I was here, baptized here in 1894.
More than 100 helium-filled balloons were released by youngsters in the church and cemetery yard. Inside the balloons are messages to the finders telling the story of the church's 100 years. The congregation only poses for a group picture every 50 years. The last one was taken in September 1930. So on a Sunday in September in the year 2030, on the 150th anniversary, the congregation will be gathered like this, looking over the pictures being taken today to see who might still be around. Happy 100th birthday, Moreland Lutheran Church. For News Center 11, I'm Chick McEwen.
I want to cover that story 50 years from now.
You notice it wasn't raining. You notice it wasn't raining on them today.
What did you do? You finally turned the trick, huh?
We lucked out, but they did have some very heavy rain in the southern part of the state. We'll tell you about that and an autumn forecast right after this.